We're excited about sharing with you about our Community Land Trust team. And I'm going to be focusing first on my favorite chapter in my book, which deals with Community Land Trust, and then the joy of being part of the 50-year celebration. Then Rostin, who lives in Texas, who was part of our one-year Housing Justice Institute last year, he will be sharing with us about his joy in starting a CLT. And then Connie, who also once lived in Texas and now is in Pasadena, who is doing a great job pulling a Community Land Trust team together and leading that effort. And so we'll start in. My name is Jill Shook, and in 2006, when I began to put different chapters in my book together on what churches are doing across the nation to address the housing crisis, people were saying, Jill, you really need a chapter on Community Land Trust. And so I got to work and began the research, and really was sold on this idea of holding land in common, with the idea that the land would not be sold, only the home. This enables today for homes to be more affordable. And it really respects the land is ultimately being used in a way that God intended in the Old Testament, that ultimately all land is God's. I could really hardly believe the powerful model I found in Maine, in the state of Maine, to feature this model. Catholic sisters owned a forest, and they got excited about Community Land Trust, and they had shelters with homeless folks on their property. They put them in buses, brought them to the state capitol, and were able to get the state policy change to make it possible for them to start a Community Land Trust. Then they took the wood from that forest, started a sawmill and other businesses, and those experiencing homelessness learned how to make that shingle siding and how to make doors, and began helping to build the homes that some of them would eventually own. That sweat equity model combined with CLT made these homes extremely affordable. They were very unique in this particular model of how CLTs have been produced in the state of Maine in this Catholic model. But every model for each of the 250 or more today Community Land Trusts in the United States are equally unique. Last year, we had the joy of meeting people from around the country involved in this model when we went to a national conference. And Rostin, who's on this Zoom, was with us for that one-year Housing Justice Institute. We were able to visit and be part of the 50-year celebration of the very first Community Land Trust in the U.S. It was called New Communities. It was created by Blacks and for Blacks in response to gaining economic rights, not just civil rights. Its history includes trips to Israel with Martin Luther King's cousin, Slater King, trips to India studying the land gift movement. And all this research, they came back to their home base in Koinonia Farms, where Habitat got its start, and began to come up with this unique model, which now Rostin and Connie will talk about. So Rostin, it's been a joy getting to know you and hear how God has worked in your life. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your passion for Community Land Trust.
Thank you, Jill. It has been a joy getting to know you as well and learning your joy. So I lived in West Texas for the past 12 years in Abilene, Texas. And for the last 3 of those years, I have been working towards ending homelessness in Abilene. First as with a local homeless service provider that does direct care. And then now I'm the coalition coordinator for our local homeless coalition. And I'm proud to say that in that time, we have achieved a functional end to veteran homelessness. We did that early last year. And then this Wednesday, 2 days from now, we are announcing that we have achieved a functional end to chronic homelessness in Abilene.
Yay.
So I've consistently seen that if we are going to make sustainable progress, we can't just keep working harder with the same tactics. There's only so many subsidies available, and as we all know, it's getting increasingly more difficult to create financing for charitable endeavors. But much more importantly, community is a huge issue in this kind of work. Our most vulnerable neighbors often have as much or even more community around them as you or me, but that community is often just as economically or medically or mentally vulnerable as they are. I like to tell an old preacher story about a family on their vacation swimming in a river. As they're playing and having fun, they hear a baby crying. They look up the river and they see a baby floating towards them in a basket. They're good citizens, they're compassionate, and so they swim the baby to shore. But as soon as they get the baby to shore, they hear and see 2 more babies floating down the river. And the more babies that they save, the more babies float down the river. They begin recruiting other families to help. And eventually they create a huge system of baby savers. There's nurses to tend the baby's medical needs. There's caseworkers to find families for the babies. There's lawyers to help work the legal system, and a massive organization of people catching babies and forming a human chain to pass them hand to hand to get them all to shore. All of a sudden, one of the people passing babies turns, and the next person in line in the chain is gone. They look upstream and they see the person swimming against the current and they yell, "Where are you going? We need you to help us save these babies." The person swimming yells back, "That's why I'm swimming upstream. I need to find out who's throwing babies in the river." The answer to ending homelessness and the answer to a number of other societal ills has to be joining this person and swimming upstream and swimming against the current. We need to be creative. We need to utilize subsidies in smarter ways that keep the subsidy local, not continually being siphoned off out of the community to out-of-town investors. Ways that put the money into quality housing, not just propping up slumlords. Ways that build up our most vulnerable neighborhoods, because as long as these neighborhoods remain economically weak communally, they will continue to be seedbeds for economic weakness individually. Here in Texas, there are currently only 2 functioning CLTs. I am working to start the 3rd in a rural city in West Texas, because I have seen that we can accomplish amazing things by creating the amazing system, but that system has limits. I'm starting a CLT here because I want to help my community to swim upstream.
So Connie, again, it's been quite a journey we've had and a joy as we've struggled together really with a similar vision, but I feel God's really put a call on your life. And I'd love to hear about that and what you've done to invest in really preparing yourself to lead our effort. And we just thank you so much and thank God for you and all your wisdom and preparation.
Thanks, Jill. It has been a joy and a journey. And a CLT is a journey. So first, let me start with saying that I'm a retired elder in the United Methodist Church, past executive in marketing in the real estate industry here in Los Angeles, in project management firms, design firms, and construction. So I have an interesting mix and a background. I feel led to organize a team for the development of a community land trust out of my theological understanding of God's hospitality towards the creation and that desire for its well-being. When things are not well, God calls for realignment, for justice, to bring life back into balance. My ministry over the last 20 years, most of it in Dallas, Texas, has been in the urban core, working to build community. Communities exist for the well-being of all of its citizens. Unfortunately, there have been injustices and inequities of the past that have kept people from being able to afford or buy homes. There's been geographic displacement of peoples when big development takes a priority, or when profit is more of a priority than the people of the community. The Community Land Trust starts with community, meaning the community takes ownership of what happens in the community. This means having a voice and a way to participate. The Land Trust is a legal vehicle for the community to own, hold, and determine what it wants to do with it. A Community Land Trust began as a rural enterprise, as Jill mentioned, but now there are several hundred urban communities that have land trusts as well as other models. It's a way to take control of the land in the community and to keep housing affordable. Community Land Trust holds the land, taking it off the speculative market, allowing the house to be available to be sold at an affordable price into perpetuity. In preparation for this work of leading and organizing a team, I've taken online courses and seminars on community land trusts from the leading nonprofit organization, Grounded Solutions. I've invested money and time to be prepared, though it is an ongoing learning curve. With the organizing of a CLT team, we are a co-learning community. We co-learn about this complex not-for-profit entity that we hope will serve the San Gabriel Valley. We are learning about a variety of CLT models, learning best practices. And we are beginning to establish our own values and goals that will shape our particular community land trusts. Currently, there are 7 members of this team from across the San Gabriel Valley. If you're interested in making housing affordable into perpetuity and value and voice the participation of community, I invite you to follow up with Making Housing and Community Happen Community Land Trust. Thank you.